The M33 version 2 is a combination of a stereo amplifier, a BluOS streamer and a digital to analog converter, and is equipped with Dirac light room correction, MQA, Foqus, Qrono, MD and MC phono input and HDMI eARC. It can deliver 550 ohms peak in 4 ohms per channel, so you're not short of power. The M33 V2 is one of the components in the NAD Master flagship series. It has an aluminium housing with a black strip covering a large part of the front. It functions as the central hub in a stereo setup or, with only loudspeakers connected, as a minimalist stereo setup. If you like to skip the Where to Use chapter following now, just use the tabs in the timeline. The M33 version 2 needs to be connected to your router/switch over either Wi-Fi or Ethernet cable. You can connect a USB drive to it holding music. You can also connect to a streaming service you are subscribed to or an internet radio station. Or play music you have stored on your computer or NAS using BluOS, Roon or Apple Music too. A pair of loudspeakers need to be connected to the M33 V2. Alternatively, a pair of headphones can be connected to the front. Primary functions can be controlled using the infrared remote control, or you use a smartphone or better a tablet. I've used both an iOS and an Android tablet without any problem. If you like, you can connect a CD player using either analog or digital interconnects. And there are more inputs, like HDMI eARC and phono input that works with turntables fitted with either a moving coil or a moving magnet cartridge. I will show you all the inputs in the chapter The Back. The M33 V2 measures 435 by 396 by 133 mm and weighs 17.6 kilograms. We find the standby button on top of the front. The NAD logo on the front shows the status by color. Below it is the 6.3 mm headphone socket. In the middle we find the large full color touchscreen. It not only shows what music is playing when streaming, but also many menus and input selections. On the right we find a rotary encoder for setting the volume. Seen from the back on the right we find the power button, the ISC mains inlet and the fuse holder. A trigger input and output makes it possible to switch on and off connected equipment like a CD player or extra power amplifier. If your equipment is not in direct sight, you can use an external infrared sensor that is connected here. The RS232 serial port is used by those fancy remotes you find in boardrooms and AV rooms. There is support for Console 4, Crestron, iPort, JAWS IA, KNX, Lutron, NICE, RTI and URC. The bridge motor switch combines the left and the right power amplifier to one mono amplifier with over 400 watts of power. If you then use the M23 version 2 power amplifier and switch that into bridge mode, that will also deliver 400 watts for the other channel. Back to the back. The reset button is positioned next to the bridge switch. Below it we find the speaker terminals that accept banana plugs, forks and bare wires. Then we get to the analog inputs and outputs. First the balance line inputs, then the balanced preamp line outputs, with in between the unbalanced preamp line outputs, and the unbalanced line input, the phono input, then the digital inputs, AES EBU, optical Toslink 2, optical Toslink 1, SPDIF coax 2 and SPDIF coax 1. Slightly above it there's a mini USB plus button for service only, a USB-A port for storage media, the LAN port, the HDMI eARC input to connect your TV to, two independent subwoofer outputs on line level and two sockets for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas. Remain 2 MDC slots that facilitate extension boards. For the M33 V2, there's currently no MDC module available, as far as I can see. I didn't feel like entirely taking apart the M33 V2, so you have to settle for a short impression. Let's start with the switch mode power supply. For those that rather have a linear power supply, when done with sufficient knowledge and budget, a switch mode power supply can be very good, especially when combined with Class D, since it can deliver current very fast. Brands like Lin, Grim Audio and the AccuVoice speakers I have reviewed last week have proven that. The BluOS streamer is in direct view. It also holds the dual Bluetooth circuits. You can thus receive a Bluetooth signal from, for instance, your phone and send it through to your Bluetooth speakers in the garden. It has Dirac Live LE room correction aboard that works on low frequencies. If you want full band correction, an optional license is needed. The rest of the preamp and DAC electronics is below it. In the documentation, the ESS Sabre ES9039 Pro DAC is mentioned. PCM signals up to 24-bit 192 kHz are supported by the M33 V2, while DSD is not. The power amplifiers are second-generation hybrid digital purified Eigentakt modules that can deliver 200 watts RMS into 8 ohms. Switching on and off is done with the switch on the back, but that is only used when the M33 V2 isn't used for a longer period. The standby button on top of the front is normally used. Then the display lights up, which lets you choose an input, make changes in the settings, have the firmware upgraded, set the phono input to either MM or MC, and so on. Alternatively, you can use the BluOS app on smartphone or tablet. From the home screen, you can access the settings menu, where you can set the sleep timer, set audio preferences like the presence of a subwoofer, the crossover frequency, replay gain, output mode, volume limits, and balance. The player menu lets you set Wi-Fi and the room name. You can also change the display name, for instance TV instead of HDMI eARC, or CD player instead of coaxial 1. In Music Library, you can set a shared volume on your network, for instance the music directory on your computer or NAS. You can also force a rescan, optimize the artwork, and set the M33 V2 as music server for other players. When you choose music, you can see the inputs, which you can select from here. When you select library, you can search on album or, for instance, artist within your own music. Let's go to LD Miola, where we can see we have 3 albums, one of them in 2 versions. If you have a subscription on Tidal, it can be accessed from the Tidal menu choice. The same goes for other streaming services like Qobuz and radio stations like TuneIn. The remote control uses a unique approach. As you can see here, there are only a limited number of buttons for a streaming amp. There's a standby button, one to select display brightness, the volume control, the mute button, one to select Dirac Live filter settings. The left and right keys let you skip back and forward. The enter key is used for play pause. The up and down arrows are not used, and last but not least we have the numerical keys. Why are there no input keys? Because with the numerical keys you recall presets. I have made 4 presets: Roon, Mute 2 for my Grim player, HDMI eARC for watching TV, and Dutch Radio 2, so when I press 4, Radio 2 starts playing. You can also choose Bluetooth playlists, for instance. I connected the M33 V2 to the Matrix Audio SI1 Ethernet filter over a Network Acoustic Muon network cable. The connection to the Zixel GS1900-10 HP switch was over a Cat6 patch cable. Another patch cable was connected to the Zixel T56 modem/router, which was connected to a 1 gigabit Ethernet fiber optic internet connection via a Nokia media converter. The small green computer Sonic Transporter i7 CDR server was also connected to the Zixel switch via a Cat6 patch cable and was running room server. The PNC FAC12 signature loudspeakers on Stack Audio 70 isolators were connected over AudioQuest Robinhood's Zero loudspeaker cable. A PSI Audio AVAA active bass strap was used to counteract room modes. Music was stored on a Samsung T7 SSD drive that was connected to the USB port on the M33 version 2. The BluOS app and the Room Remote app were run on an iPad Pro 2nd generation. The equipment was placed in a Creative Trend 3-3 rack. The first thing I noticed was the enormous potent control of the woofers. It's not cheap power play, but refined reproduction. It is fast with fine texture, and that also goes for the mids and the highs. It's revealing with great microdynamics. It sounds direct, not like a creamy tube amp. It sounds clean, and no, it hasn't the refinement of my Air acoustics amp, but that costs 3 times more. The spatial projection and the instrument focusing are excellent. Sibilant sounds clean, voices sound very natural. The character of trumpets is nicely preserved, while for instance a bugle sounds warmer, just as it should be. The sound character is upfront without being brutal, which I like. The MQA related Foqus and Qrono technology again provides to be beneficiary to time behavior, despite what some cynics may say. I grade this amp halfway my setup 1A. The NAD M33 V2 shows that the 2nd generation hybrid digital purified eigentype amplifiers are to be taken seriously, but also that BluOS, being integrated as it is, shines. Being introduced in 2014 in Bluesound players, now is a very complete streaming system that supports 23 internet services. The M33 V2 might be a bit intimidating at first with all its features, but features like Dirac Live, for which a measurement microphone comes in the box, makes a placement of loudspeakers easier, and the presets make your stereo more accessible to family members, of which some might be a member of the finance committee. That helps you in your quest for audio nirvana. And on that bombshell we come to the end of this video. A new one is coming soon, and don't forget to subscribe or follow me on Patreon, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram or TikTok. Patreon and YouTube Premium members get early access and no ads. A huge thank to everyone who supports this channel financially. Please don't be shy, I appreciate every single euro, pound, dollar or equivalent you donate. You keep me independent and motivated. It's easy to contribute using the QR code on screen or the links in the description. I'm Hans Beekhuizen. Thank you for watching, and whatever you do, enjoy the music.